Today on the Fixit Shed, I want to talk about FORScan. FORScan is free software that you can install onto a Windows machine, laptop, or computer, and with the appropriate OBD2 plug, you can connect it to the computer in your car and do all sorts of diagnostics and learn about how your car is working. So I don't want to do like a whole overview. There's lots of videos out there on that. I want to just focus on one thing. My 2011 Ford Fiesta, the blue one, needed a catalytic converter. It was getting a P0420 code. But I wanted to make sure, before I put the new catalytic converter in, I wanted to make sure that the engine was running the best that it could. So if you install a new catalytic converter on a car that's not running properly, you could poison the cat very quickly. So you want to make sure that the car is running as well as it can before you install a new catalytic converter. So one of the things that I looked at was fuel trim. So there are two parts that you need to look at for fuel trim. There's long-term fuel trim and short-term fuel trim. So fuel trim is measured in percentages. So the short-term fuel trim, it's constantly making corrections. So a healthy engine, the short-term fuel trim would be in a range of +3 to -3%. If it's running rich or lean and it's outside of that range, then the long-term trim will adjust so that it puts the short-term trim back into that good range. So the short-term trim, like I said, should be between ±3%, and the long-term trim plus the short-term trim should be less than 10%. That's an engine that's running in an acceptable range. So if it gets to be more than +10% or -10% with the two combined, you probably have some issues that you need to look at. So if your engine is running rich, that means that it is either getting not enough air or too much fuel. And if your engine is running lean, it's the opposite. It means that you're getting too much air and not enough fuel. So if things aren't running right, depending on which way, if it's running rich or if it's running lean, you want to look for different things. So if it's running lean, you want to look for air leaks in the intake system, or or clogged injectors, or things that aren't running properly, the mass airflow sensor. So if it's running rich, pretty much the same kinds of things, but you just want to check them in the opposite direction. You want to check your fuel pressure. You want to make sure that there's that it's getting good airflow. All right, so we've brought up FORScan. We're going to connect to the vehicle. All right, that's connected. So now we're going to go into the scope looking tool here, which is to read the PID data. And that has three views. You have a dashboard view, the oscilloscope view, and the table view. So we're going to start off with the dashboard view, and we need to add some PIDs here. Let's see. So I'm going to filter. I'm going to look for fuel, trim. Yeah. So, and we want the long-term fuel trim. We want the short-term fuel trim. I'm also going to put the O2 sensors. So O2S. That's not right. O2S. All right, that is the second. That is sensor 2. That is the downstream sensor. So we're going to add that. And the upstream sensor. So, and then you click the check mark to save it. Boom, and now you've got those four there. And you can go into the oscilloscope and you can see them. When the engine is running, you'll get a graph in there. So we'll go ahead and start the engine. And you can hit play. All right, and then it'll start reading the data. Okay, so the engine is cold right now, so you're not really getting any data, real data at this point. So I'm going to show you some data from the other Fiesta when I took it out for a drive. All right, I had saved off some of the data from my test in the other Fiesta, and this is just on the highway. Okay, and I'm going to zoom out, I think. That's in, out. So we have short-term trim here, long-term trim here. This is the O2 sensor number 1, O2 sensor number 2. This is the engine coolant temperature, just so that you could see that the vehicle was warmed up. And this was my speed, so you could see where I was when I was driving. But let's see if we can move out a bit here. To where, yeah, here we've got good speed. We're temperatures in range. It's going up and down, meaning that it's come up to temperature. So this is the upstream O2, which is supposed to be bouncing up and down like this, and the downstream should be very, very flat. So that's accurate. So this is after I installed the new catalytic converter. So this is the short-term fuel trim. You can see it's kind of moving up and down in a range, and it's kind of staying in that range. And the long-term trim is flat. So that's what you want to see, because that should stay consistent. And then the short-term trim should be varying. You know, for the most part, it's just this little bit that's going up and down. You're not seeing like big swipes. It's kind of depending on, you know, if you've let off on the fuel or you're giving it more gas, you know, you might get these little dips and troughs. You know, but really what you're looking at is just these little ups and downs. So they look pretty good. You know, over here, this is an area where I let off on the fuel. You can see the speed dipped a little bit, and you know, everything, all bets are off on the data at that point. So, you know, you want to look at where things are, where you're traveling along at a nice, consistent speed. Everything is warmed up. So if I look at when I had the bad catalytic converter in, okay. So let's see if we can move down here. So you can see, you know, this, you know, the fuel trim isn't going to change. It was, once it was warmed up, fuel trim long term was nice and flat. This was kind of moving in a range like it should. The OS, the number 1 oxygen sensor was bouncing up and down like it should. The downstream oxygen sensor, number 2, you know, it was kind of, it's not flat, you know, it's moving up and down a little bit, and then it would like move up and down, drastically. So you shouldn't have this area like that. So that is why that catalytic converter was failing. All right, so that's just some things that I learned about FORScan and some fuel trim, and I wanted to pass it on to you guys. I think I looked on YouTube and I really didn't find much, so if you're going to change your catalytic converter, you want to make sure that your car is running right. That's something that you definitely want to check out. So if you got something out of this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to help this channel out, please consider subscribing or becoming a member by clicking the join button below. Thanks for watching. Take care.